Everyone, welcome back to Watch and Carry. So in today's video, I'm going to kind of freestyle it and do a mod on a watch I just received in the mail. This is the Casio AE 1200 World Time. It looks very similar to the Casio Royale, but the difference here is this is the silver model. So you have this silver bezel on the outside, and on the inside, the masking, that part of the screen that gets divided by the plastic. That plastic on here is silver or gray instead of black like you find on the traditional 1200. Okay, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with this. I know I want to add a color filter to the display, and I want to change out this metal bracelet for one of the leather ones that I have in my bin over here. So I'm just going to kind of go through my filters here that I have on the side, go through some of my straps and kind of see what works. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of pans out over here. If you're curious about the types of materials I'm using, I've included links for most of them in the section down below, so you can just go ahead and reference that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is remove the bracelet from this. So let's make sure we have this in view here. So all you need to do with that is just kind of flip it over. You can open up the clasp, get your lug removal tool, and just remove these spring bars. And this is a silicone rubberized mat, or silicone mat, not rubber, silicone mat that I'm working on. These are also called soldering mats, so you can click on the link below or just type in that word into Amazon. And these are great because it's grippy and soft at the same time. All right, so now that we have that opened up, let's remove these screws here and get to the internal watch module. I'm removing this right now because I want to get to the internal watch module and masking, take that off, and then kind of run it through my filters here on the left and just kind of see what catches my eye. So the colors so far I'm having to work with are the silver from the case, and then that grayish looking bezel and masking. So what kind of goes with silver and gray? So in my mind already I'm thinking about maybe like a blue, like a light blue, maybe a yellow, maybe even a pink. Pink and gray seem to go pretty well together. So there's your case back. You can set your screws to the side. And let's just make sure I'm in focus here. Okay. Once you get to this stage, you can go to either your 6 o'clock or your 12 o'clock. Take a relatively narrow tool, even a toothpick will work, and just kind of pry up on the watch module. That's this part. And then carefully take something flat and blunt without scratching the inside of the screen and remove that masking, which is this part. Take your case back and just loosely sit that back so we prevent dust from entering the case, and I'll set this guy to the side. Okay, so here's the masking. Here is the watch module. See if I can get this glare down a little bit. Yeah, the silver really reflects the light. It's definitely my lighting too. Okay, that's a little bit better. So sorry for the poor lighting. So let's take our Lee filters. These are called Lee Filter sample packs or numeric editions. You can type this into eBay now. I've heard of people saying that they've had a hard time finding these on eBay or Amazon if you live outside the US. So unfortunately, I don't really know anywhere else to buy these except those two areas. But the benefit of this is it's cheap. This whole thing is about $5. And I also like it because it gives you tons of colors. Now, right when you're starting to do modifications, you may have an idea of what you want. So you might be tempted to buy big sheets of these colors. But the thing is, those sheets are, not cheap. Even for one sheet, it can be about $9, and you're kind of stuck with that. So if you don't like the color, you've kind of wasted money there. By spending $5 here, you can get a small sample of all the varieties that Lee offers. Once you find that color you like, so for example, gold amber, you can go to eBay or Amazon or even Lee's website and type in the code name. as well as the name here. And then now you can order a big sheet of something you for sure will like because you've seen it in the sample edition. So that's the benefit of this. And then also for freestyling like this, I can run through tons of colors, very easy. It's very portable, and you can kind of mix and match on the fly without having to kind of hinder your creative spirit, so to speak. All right, so we've got this gray bezel here. Zoom in again. So what I want to find is something that's going to go pretty well with gray. So put the gray here in the corner, and let's kind of run through this. So yellow looks pretty good, but you know what? I've done a lot of yellows already, so I'm not too keen on doing that. Orange, no, not really. I do like pink. So this one looks pretty good. Pink or purple. So there's purple. And then what you can do sometimes is you can kind of put the filter over it like that and say, yeah, that looks pretty good. It's a little dark. In fact, it's a lot darker in person than I'm seeing it on camera right now. So you also want to hold up the filter over the watch module before you cut it out, because if it's too dark, you know, you're not going to have this nice crisp display. It's going to make it harder to look at. In general, when you add most filters, it's actually going to lower the crispness of the display. The exception would be something like yellow or amber, which kind of makes it pop. But this looks good on camera, but in person it looks much, much darker, so I don't think that's something that I would like. Yeah, I think even in this bright light, it's too dark for me. So let's go with this Carnation number 39. It's almost like a lavender. That looks pretty good, actually. So I'm moving it around the room in low light away from the camera, and then I'm moving it in bright light. That's to kind of simulate the different conditions in which you'd be referencing your watch. You can also go ahead and put it over and press the top left button and see how the backlight will interact with that filter. So some filters do nothing. Some of them really block the light from showing. Now on camera, this looks too dark, but in person, everything looks really nice and crisp and actually looks pretty orange. I can't capture that on camera for you, so you'll just have to take my word for that. So I like this Carnation. This looks really good. Okay, so I'm going to set this down to the side, and we know we're going to be working with this. Okay, let's zoom back out here. Okay, so we will set the watch module to the side. And I'm going to cover the whole screen with this color. I don't really feel like doing multicolors on this one. So I will lay the masking underneath the filter that I like. Kind of line it up there. Okay, that looks good. And then we will take our Sharpie and outline the areas that we're going to cut. So the corners on the top and the right we don't have to worry about, just here on the left. Okay, kind of like that. Nothing too fancy over there. Okay, now if you look at the corners of this masking, you'll see that they're kind of beveled. So you need to make sure that you bevel your edges on the shape that you're cutting out as well, to make sure that you don't have any filter sticking out. So we'll start by cutting. Okay, be pretty delicate when cutting these. These filters do bend and crease very easily, and then of course you can't uncrease it, so just have to be careful with how you cut these. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to set that guy to the side. And again, that one is Carnation, and that's the one I'm using there. Pink Carnation number 39. So you can order that in a big sheet if you want to make a lot of these mods. Okay, once that is laid out, we'll take our filter here. Okay, go ahead and bevel those corners like we mentioned. Go back to your filter, and then now we can clean this up. So I'm using a microfiber cloth here. If you have a microfiber towel, that will also be good. So clean one side. I'm using some plastic tweezers, flip it over. Clean the other. Try to limit touching the inside as much as you can, because fingerprints do show up pretty easily, especially on a light colored filter like this one. Okay, that looks good. We will take our filter and lay this guy to the side. If you see some dust on it, don't worry about that. We'll take care of that in a little bit. Okay, so we have our filter cut out, which looks good. Come on, focus. Okay. Okay, with your filter laid out, the next step is to grab a Q-tip of some kind. So I'm using these pointed Q-tips, which are great. You can get these off Amazon. Again, check the link below. I'm going to pinch the end here of one end and then pinch the other end as well. And that just makes it more precise when applying the super glue. Okay. Now we're going to grab some super glue. I like to use this brand, the Loctite, because the squeeze tabs are much more convenient than using a tube, and you can control how much comes out a lot easier. Super glue isn't that cheap, so obviously you don't want to waste and expel too much when you're trying to apply it. So I'm going to put a little bit here to the end. There we go. And then just brush this as far to the edge as I can. Okay, try to keep it away from the cutouts and try to keep it more towards the borders, because if you bring it too close to the cutouts on the inside, the glue will spread when you apply the filter, and then it'll spread the glue into the visible area where you can see it once the watch is reassembled, and it won't look good. So I'm just going to apply it to two corners because super glue dries pretty fast. Okay, go ahead and take your filter now. Okay, bring it as close to the edge as you can, line it up, and then grab a toothpick or something blunt and kind of tap it down like that. Okay, as you're tapping it down, there are these little protrusions on the border of the plastic. You need to make sure that the filter does not rest on the protrusion, but rests on the flat part. So this one is hitting this protrusion right here, so that's not good. I have to pick this up. I'm gonna have to use my hands for this one and relay it down. Okay. It's probably the trickiest part of this whole process. Okay. Okay, so that looks pretty good. All right, so not too bad. A word of caution, by the way, if you end up messing up laying down the filter and you want to go ahead and remove the filter and apply more glue again, be really careful when doing that. For some reason, super glue has this tendency to cloud up and spread. when you apply new super glue to old super glue. So for example, let's say I go ahead and remove this filter right now and I apply another bead of super glue. What I found is that over time, the super glue, the new and the old, somehow react with each other and it creates a clouding effect, and that clouding effect actually spreads. So the way I found out this was I did what I told you. I applied it, it didn't look good. I took off the filter, reapplied glue, put the filter back, reassembled the watch, and then the next day when I went to look at my watch, there was all this cloudiness all over the display. And so the only thing that I figured out was it had to do with me applying new super glue over previously dried super glue. So if you are going to re-glue again, what I recommend you do is you apply glue to a different area that you did not apply to originally. So I have glue here and here. I don't have any glue here on the top or the bottom. So I'm going to take a brand new Q-tip, and let's say I needed to do glue. I can go ahead and take my glue and apply it. In this case, I'm just going to put a small dot here, some reinforcement, and maybe, yeah, I think that's it. One small dot here in the corner should be good. But if you needed to reapply a thin bead, you can do it here and here where you haven't applied previously. So just a word of caution there. Usually when you have a big chunky filter like this, you don't really have to worry so much about glue. You might even get away with not using glue because the filter kind of sits down in that masking and doesn't fall over. Once you start doing multiple color filters inside a single masking, that's where it gets a little bit trickier. So I'm going to set that to the side and let this guy dry for now. Zoom out and let's take a look at some thing is having a really hard time focusing today. Okay, let's go ahead and start thinking of different strap ideas. So this is the stainless steel bracelet that it came with. This is the case. All right, let's make sure that's all in focus. Okay, so let's see here. I have a standard black strap that comes with most Casio watches. I can see how that looks. So fits, this is 18 millimeters by the way at the lugs. It looks too basic for me, it looks too sporty. I think with lavender and silver, I kind of want something a little bit classier looking. I have this ribbed strap by Zarek. It's a leather strap. So it would be gray and gray. Kind of goes well, kind of doesn't. I do like the color, but I don't like the rib design. I don't know why. It just doesn't seem to catch my eye. So I'm going to set that one to the side. Okay, how about this one? We got a dark, almost like coffee brown look. That looks pretty good, actually. See if I can zoom in. It's actually not bad. It's pretty good. Again, this camera and the lighting is not doing it justice, so I apologize. Okay. Okay, not bad. So far I think that's my top candidate. Got this lighter brown, almost like tan. It's pretty cool too. I do like that the brown contrasts the silver pretty well. So I'll set that guy to the side also. And then this gray strap. So this one is notched. You can see I kind of cut at the lugs here to make it fit 18, but this is actually a 22 with strap. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I have this pink here, so I'm kind of keeping that in the corner to kind of have my eyes drawing the different colors together. And I think, you know what, so far with the pink, just a crude fitment here, I think that works really well. No, I don't like that. And no, I don't know. I think the gray looks good. I think the spotlight of this piece is going to obviously be the pink filter. So I want the rest of it to kind of just blend into the pink. I don't want to take my eyes away from the pink. And I think if I use this color, it's going to take my eyes away from that. So another way to go about doing your, freestyle modding is to actually get the non-filter parts all set up. So you could have taken your watch, chosen your strap, and then you choose a filter that matches the strap. For me, I kind of already wanted to do a lavender pink design, so that's why I started with the filter first, and now I'm trying to find the strap that works well around that. So you need to kind of make that decision in your mind. What do you want to be the spotlight? Do you want the strap to be the spotlight, or do you want the filter and the case to be the spotlight? And you kind of build from there. Okay. So I'm going to go with this gray strap. Again, this is a 22 millimeter. This is made, by the way, by a company called Ish. I'm going to try to put the link down below, spelled E-A-C-H-E. They're really cheap. I think it's about 10 bucks. And they're leather. They actually come with the lugs already. It does come with a buckle, but I've removed the buckle, so I'm going to have to find that. And it comes with a lug removal tool. So pretty good kit for 10 bucks. So that's the strap I'm going to choose there. Set that guy to the side, set our strap to the side, and now let's go ahead and reassemble our case over here. Make sure we're in focus again. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I will take this masking, and then what I'll do is I'll take my duster here. I'll put that in the link as well and kind of dust from one side to kind of get the dust off. Flip it over and be a little bit more gentle here because you don't want to blast the filter off of its glue. Turn the filter and the masking in the light to make sure that you don't have any dust. Look for fingerprints. If you do see some fingerprints, you can grab a clean Q-tip and kind of try to massage them off, or you can put the Q-tip underneath to hold it in place and then kind of wipe with a microfiber towel like that. So for me though, this looks good. Everything looks well here. So then I will set this to the side, take my watch module, give that a quick dusting, take my case. Okay, somebody left a tip for me on a previous video and I like it. Hold the case right side up and blast from underneath. That will kind of prevent dust from settling inside the case, and it allows gravity to kind of take over. Okay, so that looks good. Temporarily flip this over. Make sure you note which is the world time and illuminator. The world time is always the 12 o'clock, so we'll put that there. Insert our masking in the right orientation. Gently tap down. Take our internal watch module and sit that inside like that. Okay, once you sit that inside, take your lug removal tool, and I'll zoom in for this part. Okay, you're going to hold down with one finger. With the other hand, you're going to pry towards that finger with your lug tool. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what you'll feel is that the watch module will kind of fall into its place because you're allowing these tongues to sit properly, so that way they can interact with the pushers on the side properly. So important step to make sure you get down correctly. Okay, you're going to take your watch case. Oh, secondly, if you've accidentally removed the gasket or the O-ring, go ahead and set that down. The gasket does have a little rubber projection on the 12 o'clock side versus the 6. So you notice it's all smooth, and then there's a small bump at the 12 o'clock. So we will set that bump here. And actually, if you look at the track that this O-ring rests in, there's also a little cutout for that bump at the 12 o'clock. Okay, set this O-ring down properly. Okay, if this is an old watch for you, you can make sure that you lube up that O-ring lightly with some oil. So I use Hops number 9 lubricating oil for that. Okay, take your case back. The orientation should be in this fashion. Okay, go ahead and lay that directly on top like that. Okay. And then before you add the screws, flip it over and rotate the watch in the light at different angles to check for any dust or fingerprints that might be in there. So that way, if they are, it's easy to remove it and clean it before putting on the screws. So that looks pretty good to me. Kind of like this color. You can see that, yeah, it's a little bit dimmer than the stock, but I think the pink goes very well with the masking color as well as that grayish bezel. Okay, and then when I match it here with the strap, I think it looks pretty good as well. Yeah, kind of like that a lot. So we'll take this back over. Everything looks good. We'll take our screws. Oops. Helps to have steady hands, and 3 cups of coffee does not help while doing this project. So set that down. Go ahead and tighten these screws in. Okay, I just make it snug but not too tight. And then lastly, I rotate the case. I check between the case back and the case to make sure that O-ring is not projecting up, because that's what helps with the water resistance. Somebody also asked me, like, because I do sell some of my mods on my Instagram page. Check the link below, by the way, for my sales page. What happens to the water resistance when you modify these watches? Does it maintain its water resistance? First of all, make sure you know that it's water resistant, not waterproof. You know, the word waterproof, I think, is erroneously used in watches. I think it's near impossible to make anything absolutely proof, but it is possible to make it resistant within limitations. And so with this, I believe the resistance is 100 M, and that's why it says WR, water resistance, not WP, waterproof. So my answer to the water resistance integrity is anytime I think you open up a watch from the factory, it's going to be less water resistant when you reassemble it, assuming it was assembled correctly in the factory. So that's the short answer. I would also say that I do try to reassemble everything as close to factory specs as possible. You know, I re-lubricate the O-ring, I lay the O-ring correctly down, I tighten these screws all the way down. Now, I don't know if these screws are torqued to a certain number. I highly doubt that. But I really try my best. But again, if these are assembled from the factory, which are probably monitored with quality control super well, you are probably going to lose a little bit of water resistance. That being said, I've gone swimming with, like, this one, for example, this modification. I've gone in the shower with it. I've been using this now for a year. I've never had an issue, and I open this watch up, I don't know, at least once a month to try on different modifications. So for me, that's really been working well. Another thing that people do is they open up these case backs and they actually pour mineral oil, I think, or some kind of oil into the watch. They do it because mineral oil tends to make the display pop a little bit, but they also claim that it helps with water resistance because obviously oil repels water. I haven't done that personally, so you might want to read up more on that on your favorite Casio forum, but that could be another option to look into. For me, just get these screws in correctly and make sure that O-ring sits properly and also is well lubricated. Those are the two things I think you can do as far as simplicity goes for maintaining that water resistance. Okay, so we've got that. We'll now put our strap in. So again, these are 18mm lugs. So let's find the 18mm spring bar here. I believe that's these two. Okay, good. We're still in focus. All right. So I'll insert one end there. kind of push the spring bar to one side and get it into one of the holes of the lugs, and then rest the other end on the top of the lug. Grab your lug removal tool, push it inward. Oh. And give it a little bit of a jiggle to make sure that it's sitting in there properly. Okay, we're going to flip this guy over. Do the same thing here again. Insert into one end. And give it a jiggle. Okay. Some people have also asked me, how do you notch? So what is notching? Notching is when you have a strap that is, for example, like this. So this is a 20 millimeter strap, 20 millimeters at this end. Let's say I wanted to fit this 20 millimeter end on this 18 millimeter end. You can see I'd have a little bit extra to cut off from the left and the right. So notching is what you do to kind of cut off those corners to make it fit. So there are notch cutting tools that you can use. For me, I think basic stuff is really easy. Get a nice ruler that has millimeters in measurements. Kind of mark off from the corners how much you need to cut. So if it's 22, you need to make it down to 18. That's a difference of 4 millimeters. 4 divided by 1 and 2 sides is 2, so that means I have to take 2 millimeters off of each side. Mark that with a Sharpie, and then I like to take a hobby knife or X-Acto knife, a very thin brand new blade, slowly make some cuts from each end at the Sharpie mark, and then you're kind of good to go. So that's my brief explanation on how to do notching. Okay, so I will find the buckle in a little bit, but let's take a look at how this looks so far. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I never thought I'd be a fan of lavender on a watch, and to be honest, I really wasn't that big a fan of this silver bezeled Casio because I think the black is just a classic look, and black goes with everything. But you know what? This gray silver bezel looks pretty good, I think, with this lavender. Okay, let's go ahead and find that buckle. Okay, so I think I found the parts for this buckle. So we're going to begin by taking this small part, inserting this in the middle. Take your spring bar, insert that through the watch and through that part. Take your buckle, insert it in one end. Make sure that this skinny part lies on top of the buckle. Okay, rest it on top. So I have one part of the spring bar inserted into the hole of the buckle, the other end resting on top. Take your lug tool, pry inside, and listen for a click. So there we go. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. Let's try this guy on. Give it a quick wipe down, and we'll see how this thing works out. Okay, and there we go. Excuse the dry skin, by the way. I'm living here in Las Vegas and definitely need to get a humidifier. But anyways, this is how the watch looks. Trying to get this in better light here. There we go. Okay, so we'll give you a wrist shot here. A little bit of dust here, but I can wipe that off later. That's outside the screen. Look at that display. And then on the outside there. Okay, let's go ahead and check the functions. We'll start with that backlight. Again, it's going to look different on camera than in person. But it's very bright orange in person all the way around, but in this camera it looks like a dim orange. So at least the backlight works. Okay, we'll go ahead and test our functions. So timer, reset. So that looks good. Great. So there you go. I'm going to take this off, show you the back of it. All right, guys. So that's just a quick freestyle mod. Again, really helps to have that Lee filter pack here to kind of sit it right next to your watch, kind of play around and see what different designs you want to come up with. Makes it a lot of fun. And you can order these again off of eBay or Amazon, and hopefully they're available in your country. But that'll do it for today's video. Thanks for sticking with it. If you guys have any other ideas for mods or any questions about what you saw today, please put them down in the comments below. Again, I have an Instagram page, 2 of them, where you can actually see my daily posts about watches and EDC gear. That's at all lowercase watch_n_carry. And then my sales page, where I actually show you different catalogs of mods that I'm selling. That is the same exact handle, at watch and carry, and then you add another underscore to carry, and then sales at the end of that, all lowercase as well. All right, thanks for sticking with it, guys. Have fun, and I'll see you guys on the next one.